Hi class, before we start to do the assignment, you had a warm-up to do in class. And the warm-up was multiplying fractions. And remember, when we multiply fractions, we multiply the top times the top, which is the numerator, and the bottom times the bottom, which is the denominator. And we're going to use this idea when we divide as well. Okay, so when you multiply fractions, you'd multiply the top times the top and the bottom times the bottom. So this is 1 times negative 7. We just like to put the negative up on the top there, so pretend it's up here. That's negative 7, and then 2 times 10 is 20. Okay, top times top, bottom times bottom, watching your sign. And if you don't have a top and a bottom, then you have to change it so that you have a top and a bottom. So this is negative 9 times negative 1/2. So we put this over 1. Now we have a top times the top, a negative 9 times a negative 1, that's a positive 9. Then we have a 1 times a 2, and that's a 2. Okay, so top times top, bottom times bottom. And here in number 4, we have a mixed number. And so we have a top and a bottom, but we also have the whole number. So we need to switch this to make it improper. So 3 times 2 is 6. 6 plus 1 is 7. So we rewrite 2 1/3 as 7 over 3, right? 3 times 2 is 6, plus 1 is 7. That goes on top, and we have 3 parts. And we're going to multiply that by negative 3 over 2. So now we have a top and a bottom, a top and a bottom. So top times top is negative 21, and bottom times bottom is 6. So we're going to use these ideas when we go into dividing. Okay. But before we can divide, we need to know how to find the reciprocal. And the reciprocal is going to be taking a fraction and flipping it. So we flip the fraction. Flip it. So in other words, if we have 5 over 4, our reciprocal is going to be 4 over 5. We flip it. We put the top on the bottom and the bottom on the top. Now, a reciprocal is special because if you take a fraction and you multiply it by its reciprocal, you end up with 1. And that's the definition of a reciprocal. The reciprocal of a fraction is that fraction that when you multiply it times the original fraction, you get 1. Okay. So that was number 7. Now you're going to try number 8, right? Now, number 9. We have 3, and we want the reciprocal. Well, doesn't look like a fraction, right? So let's put it over 1. Now it looks like a fraction, and we can find the reciprocal by flipping the top and the bottom. So 1 goes on top, and 3 goes on the bottom. And so now you're going to try number 10. Okay, 11, we're going to find the reciprocal. And you just have to be careful to keep the sign. So this is 12 over 5, so our reciprocal is going to be 5 over 12. Right, we flip those, but don't forget to keep your negative. Still needs to be negative. So that means it's the same thing for number 13. We have a negative, so our answer, our reciprocal is going to be negative. So we put 4 on top and 1 on the bottom, and it's negative. But you need to simplify this. Okay, this is not wrong, but it's not simplified. 4 over 1 is 4, and it's negative, so it's negative 4. Okay, when you see this, and you're all done doing your math, this is what you should write. Okay, and in 15, we have a fraction and we have a mixed number. So we're going to need to change this first so it has just the top and the bottom. It's going to be an improper fraction. So remember how we do it? 4 times the 3 is 12 plus 3. So 12 plus 3 is 15. I put that over 4. So I've just changed the mixed number into an improper fraction. I really want you to know how to do that. Now we need to find the reciprocal. Well, the reciprocal is just flipping things. Now we have a top and a bottom. So we put the bottom on the top and the top on the bottom. Flip them. Flip. Okay. And that's the reciprocal. Now you're going to do the same thing for 16. You're going to change this into an improper fraction. Oops, I forgot to erase this. Change this into an improper fraction. and then you're going to flip it. All right, so now we're going to divide fractions. And when we divide fractions, we need to use the multiplying rule that we use, and we need to know how to find the reciprocal. So when we do fractions, we're going to keep the first fraction, okay? So we're going to keep the first fraction just exactly the same way it is. We're going to change the divide to multiply, and then we're going to find the reciprocal or flip the second fraction. So that becomes 5 over 7. So we talked about this in class. We're going to keep, change, and flip. Okay? So we keep the first fraction the way it is, we change this division to multiplication, and then we flip the second fraction. Now this is an algorithm or a rule, and I told you before, an algorithm or a rule is a process we use to make doing math easier. Okay, so now we have to do the multiplying. 5 times 5 is 25. And you can use your multiplication charts. And 4 times 7 is 28. There are no common factors, so we're done. So you're going to do the same thing with 18 now. You're going to keep the first fraction, change that to multiply, and then flip that. And watch your signs. You have a negative fraction times a negative fraction, so your answer better be positive. All right, number 19. I have 2 fractions here. I'm going to keep the first, negative 3 over 2, change that to multiply, and flip the next fraction, so it's 3 over 4, but I need to keep the negative, so I'm going to keep the negative. Okay? It can go, the negative can go on the bottom or the top, it doesn't matter. Now we're going to multiply across. Negative times a negative is positive 9, and 2 times 4 is 8. Now if you put the negative down here, you would have gotten a negative 9 over a negative 8, and that's still going to be a positive 9 over 8. So when I did this, I just kept the negative sign in the numerator, so I got rid of the negatives right away. Negative times a negative became a positive, and then we have those two are positive. Now you try this one again using the algorithm. All right, 21. Here's our 2 fractions. So I'm going to keep the first fraction, 1 over 4, change it to multiply, flip the second fraction. Okay, now we'll multiply. Top times the top is 2, bottom times the bottom is 4, and I'm almost done. I notice these are both even, so they're both divisible by 2. So I'm going to divide by 2 on top and bottom, and I get 1/2, and I'm done. Okay, 23. I notice I have a fraction here, and this is not in a fraction form. So I'm going to keep the first fraction, negative 3 over 2, change that to multiply. But now how am I going to flip 5? Remember, we can make it look like a fraction by putting it over 1. So it's negative 3/2 divided by 5 over 1. Well, then I'll just flip this fraction now. I made it into a fraction, and now I will flip it. And then we're going to multiply. Top times the top is negative 3. Bottom times the bottom is 10, and we're done. And you try this one now. Number 25, I see I have a whole number divided by a fraction, so I'm going to put that over 1. And I have 2 over 1 times, now I'm going to flip this one. Oh, actually, well, it's okay. Now I'm going to flip this one. So keep, change, flip, 4 over 1. Now if I multiply this out, I get 2 times 4 is 8, and 1 times 1 is 1. And that whole thing is just, remember when you see this, 8 over 1 just means 8. They mean the same thing. I'm done. In number 27, I want to divide these fractions. Oops. Oh, I did not have that. Sorry about that. I'm going to do that one again, so you can see exactly what I did. Kind of did it the long way too, but that's all right. I'll just do it exactly the same way. You can watch me do it again. So I have 2 divided by 1/4. So I'm going to make that as a fraction. I keep the first one, change the division to multiplication, flip this, and then I multiply. 2 times 4 is 8, and 1 times 1 is 1. That's the part you didn't see. And now 8 over 1 is equal to 8. Simplify that. That's not simplified. Okay, next one. Last one. By the way, I do one, you do one, right? So now you try this one. Now I'm going to do this one. We have a mixed number here. There's a pencil. We have a mixed number. So we need to change that so that we just have the improper fraction with the top and the bottom, because we can't find the reciprocal of this until we make it into an improper fraction. So I have keep the first fraction, change that to multiplication. Now this has to get changed. So it's 4 times 1, right? Bottom times that, that's 4, plus 3. So 4 plus 3 is 7. So it's 7/4. 4 times 1 is 4, plus 3 is 7. Then you put it over the parts. And this is a negative, don't forget. So now we have 2 times -7 is -14. And 5 times 4 is 20. And we're almost done. Now we just need to see, can we simplify this? Is there a common factor? Since they are both even, we can divide by 2. And 14 divided by 2 is 7, but that's a negative. And 20 divided by 2 is 10. And we're done. Okay, so now you're going to do this one. And again, you're going to change this into an improper fraction, and then you can use your method of dividing. Okay, I'll talk to you later.